Here we go. People, it is happening. Tarun Shetty, Thursday morning in the studios. It's a great day. Hope everyone's having a fantastic week. I'm grinding away, trying to keep sane, have my goals intact. You know, this is a fun story. There's this great video. There's this Joe Rogan video. I think it's like 5 minutes long. And he's talking about how you have to make yourself like the star of your own movie. It's like a motivational video. So I was kind of down last night. I wasn't down, but I was watching this video. And then I go to the Improv. I walk in and Joe Rogan's standing right there. Like only in Hollywood do you see people, like literally you see stars everywhere. So I walk in there and he has this video where he gets his black belt from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu Gym. You know, it's from 10 years old. And I was like, hey, Joe, I love that video. You get your black belt. I was like, I train jiu-jitsu. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. Thanks. He goes, where do you train at? And I was like, HPJJ. It's my gym. And he goes, oh, cool, bro. He goes, cool, brother. And he walks away. But I was like, man, that was kind of a surreal moment. I don't know, just starting off this podcast with a story. But hey, I thought I would talk about today. I've done a lot of interesting things in entertainment. I don't know how many stories I have left, but I think I have a lot left. And getting an internship in Hollywood is suggested, and I did a lot of internships. I was an intern at HBO. Well, I was in New York. I went to school at NYU. So I wasn't even in Hollywood, and I was really well aware of that. But I was really adamant about building up my resume. And part of it's, I was very fortunate to have parents to help supplement my income because, I was a broke college student. So when school ended, I was able to stay in New York. I got NYU housing, and I just applied everywhere to every internship I could apply to. So I was an intern at HBO. I was an intern at MTV. And a lot of MTV Animation, by the way. And a lot of these internships, they were through the school year. Some of them were during the summer, but I was obsessed with getting an internship at a comedy show. Like, I would go to NYU's like Internship Center, which was just some guy in an office with a binder, and it was like these emails or clippings he'd cut out, put in a binder where you could apply and where to send your resume to. It really wasn't anything. And I wanted to work on SNL or like Letterman. I was like, oh, man, if I could just get an internship there, that'd be a great way in. And I applied freshman year. I applied sophomore year. Nothing. I'm sure they got thousands of resumes. But I was, like anything, I'm telling you, if you're obsessed about something, if you really want to make something happen, you'll find a way. And there was this show called Spin City. It was, I'm aging myself here, but there was a sitcom called Spin City when I was in college, and Michael J. Fox was the star of it. And it was about like Michael J. Fox, and he was like the White House, I don't know, coordinator. I don't know what the premise of the show was, but he worked in the White House. And no, I'm sorry. I'm totally killing that premise. He worked in the mayor's office in New York City. And he basically managed a staff of whatever, the mayor's staff, and he was the head guy. This is a horrible description, but you get the point. You can YouTube the show. And I was like, wow, Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future. I never even watched the show, but I sent my resume. Next thing I know, I'm going in for an interview to be the writer's intern on Spin City. I go in, I meet with like this 22-year-old girl who's like an assistant there to like one of the exec producers. She hires me, and I'm off and running. I'm a writer's intern for Spin City. This was my most favorite internship of everything I did. To this day, probably one of my best memories of just comedy. Because I was at a point where I wasn't as jaded. That's one. But two, man, that staff, from on-camera talent to behind the scenes was just, first class. Like the staff or the actual cast was like Michael J. Fox, Barry Bostwick, Alan Ruck, Richard Kind, just huge, great actors. Great actors. I mean, Michael J. Fox isn't as big as a star now, but he was definitely a huge star back then. And this is before he announced the Parkinson's stuff. And then the writers, let's see, who was there? I'm trying to name some girls too. But I think Jill Soloway was a writer there. Tad Quill. Tad Quill's created a bunch of shows to this day. Tom Hertz created a bunch of shows, like Rules of Engagement, I think. Jay Sherrick was like a head writer there. David Ron, who like wrote the Smurfs movies. And, it was just unbelievable for me to be like this 20-year-old kid having full access to the writers, because I was there watching these guys churn out these shows. And the show taped at Chelsea Piers, which was like on 22nd Street, like on the west side by the pier. And you wouldn't think that they taped this TV show over there, but they did. They taped a whole, like they actually had like Pier 22 or whatever, and the whole thing was dedicated to Spin City. And it was just a surreal experience getting to go in there. And my responsibilities were to just do anything required of me. That was my responsibility. Like, it was cool being a writer's intern, but really, I didn't write anything. I just basically was there to service the writers and the assistants and do whatever they wanted me to do. So my jobs included, like, if they needed help passing out scripts, collating things, making copies, I would get the lunches. I got sent many times to the grocery store to refill the lunch snack room, which was just a plethora of all kinds of goodies. And as that gained trust, they let me do more things. Like I started to meet like the cast, like Richard Kind, who's just an unbelievable actor. If you don't know who Richard Kind is, Google him. He's an awesome actor. So I got to know Richard, and Richard had me walk his dog. He was like, "Hey, can you walk my dog?" Like once a week. His dog's name was Grazie, and I'd walk his dog, which I love dogs. By the way, I saw Richard Kind like 12 years later. He had no idea who I was, but I was like, dude, I used to walk Grazie, and he knew immediately who I was. One time I got to just hang out with the actors when they were just waiting to like shoot, and they were just like bored. I was like, "This is what acting is?" They were like, "Yep, that's what it is." The one guy I never really got to hang out with was Michael J. Fox. Like they kept this guy separate from everybody else. He had his own dressing room underneath the bleachers, which is weird. Like it was like a dollhouse that he lived. This is crazy. I mean, this is true though. I'm telling you, like he was not accessible, and he had like this Asian assistant who, it was just weird. Like you only saw him like on set, and he wasn't even there for like the read-throughs. But everyone kept saying, "Oh, Michael J. Fox is an amazing guy," and he had an office upstairs next to the writer's room, but he was never there. So it was just, that's the one guy that was kind of an enigma. And but man, I remember my first week there, I rarely get starstruck just because I'm in the comedy scene. I see like a lot of famous comedians. You kind of get used to it. When I saw Michael J. Fox walk out for that first time, I was like, holy shit, this is the guy from Back to the Future. Like I was starstruck because you see this guy like this, he's like this diminutive person just kind of walk out, and he just has a swagger. Or maybe I'm just projecting that, but it definitely was cool to see Marty McFly. So Oh, also, the guy's a chain smoker. My God, the guy was always smoking. I guess people didn't know that, but I'm telling you, he was always smoking, and he was the only guy allowed to smoke, from what I could see, on that set. So yeah. So that's what I did. I was the intern, and those guys were just a great group of writers because they were so nice, they were so funny, and for the first time in my life, I was like, wow, this is where I want to be. These are people like me. They were like funny guys. Like, I wasn't necessarily a performer or where I am right now, and I just felt like I fit in with that group. In fact, Tom Hertz, who was one of the big writers there, senior writers, he used to do stand up and he used to bring me to his comedy shows. So they were super nice to me. They were just, I kind of felt like they were like my older brothers and sisters to some extent. Like they just were so nice to me. In fact, I wrote a script for one of these TV pilot competitions, and I wrote a Spin City spec. Those guys punched up my script. By the way, I still didn't get into that competition. This is how ridiculous Hollywood is. Like the actual writers of Spin City help with my script, and I still didn't get into that competition. Regardless, it was a lot of fun doing that. I remember Jay Sherrick, who was I think one of the head writers there. He was the guy I was most close to, and I really learned a valuable lesson. And if anyone's listening to this, this is my, just take away this. Always ask for favors. Like even if you're afraid of saying no, always ask, because back then I always thought being a writer was easy. I thought being a Hollywood writer was an easy thing. In fact, when I had an opportunity, they actually asked me when I was in school. They were like, "Hey, do you want to come to Hollywood?" When they moved shows, they actually moved the show from New York to LA, and Charlie Sheen replaced Michael J. Fox, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to be the script coordinator?" I was gonna have to drop out of school to do that, so I said no. But it was really nice of them to ask me. But I always thought like, oh, getting these jobs are so easy. But these jobs are incredibly tough. Becoming a Hollywood writer, comedy writer, is so tough. There are thousands of people, some of them capable, very capable of becoming writers, but it is a competitive space. So I remember when I was working for Jay, and I'd work late, and I gained their trust, and I had like a spec script, and he was like, "Anything you need from me, buddy, ask me." And I was so afraid of asking him to read my script. I was so terrified of asking him to be like, "Hey, dude, can you read my script?" Because I just felt like I was a kid, and you get scared to ask. The rejection of Jay reading my script and saying no to it was just terrifying to me. So I never asked him for anything. I never asked anybody for anything aside from just, even when they, helped punch out my script, they volunteered that because they asked me what I was working on. But I really never asked for any favors. So always ask. If you have any connection in the industry, ask them for a favor, ask them for a referral, ask them for, can you refer me to your agent? Whatever. If they say no, so be it. It wasn't meant to be, but this is a tough business and you have to make a move. In fact, Jay and David were so great to me. When Spin City ended, I was in New York, and they never went to go work on the next season. They went to go work on some other TV show called Madigan Men, which was just a shit show. But I was the writer's intern for that show too, because of Jay and David. Like, they brought me over there, which was just so nice of them. By the way, I tried to look up these guys like years later, and they're untouchable. You can't get through to these guys because they've got agents and lawyers, and that's what it was. It was fun for at the time, and so grateful. By the way, let me just backtrack. The professionalism of Michael J. Fox is unbelievable. This is a quick story. I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but Michael J. Fox, I never saw him like really rehearse during the read-throughs, and then he'd show up like Thursday night, and whatever, when they were kind of blocking it out, and he'd be like smoking, and like he'd be all over the map, just, lines were not memorized, and he was just like, oh, but this guy's kind of sucks, right? And I wasn't even like a trained actor back then, but I remember thinking like, oh, this guy's kind of like not good. Come Friday, when they actually taped the show, this guy was spot on, word for word, nailed every line, every scene. This guy's amazing. Like, no wonder he's a star, because this guy just put it all together in front of the audience, live audience, it taped. So I took that away from it too. I was like, damn, there's a level of professionalism which really blows your mind. I also got to see comedians, work behind the scenes. Like this guy named Eddie Ift was the warm-up comic. Wally Collins was a warm-up comedian. So I got to like talk to the comedians when they warmed up the crowd. These tapings would go on for hours and hours sometimes. So I got to talk to the comedians and what they did. So I got to see how the directors worked on shoot dates, just directing the actors, the PAs, everything. It's a whole team. Wardrobe, like there's so many finite details in a TV taping, and really privileged that I was able to see all of that. So when Spin City ended, I was only there for a year. I wish it went on longer, but again, they moved the show back to LA because Michael J. Fox. Oh, maybe this makes perfect sense, because Michael J. Fox announced his Parkinson's that year, and I think he was off the show. So maybe that's why he was so separate from everybody, because they didn't want to, maybe he was going through his medical stuff. But when they moved the show back to LA, I stayed, and there was a huge party at the end in New York, which I was invited to, and it was awesome. Like, I'm just laughing because the stories I'm remembering. Gary David Goldberg, who created Family Ties, came to the party, which was huge. Like, I guess he was a producer on Spin City. Bill Lawrence came, who's a mega mogul TV guy right now. He was an executive producer in Spin City. All these A-list writers showed up, and TV stars. And I remember I had this camera, which you could like throw away. Remember those cameras back in the day? You could like buy the camera, shoot a bunch of film, and throw the camera away, like get it developed. That's the camera I had at the party. And I wanted the Michael J. Fox, and I was like, "Hey, Mike, can I get a photo?" Because he knew who I was. And he goes, "Yeah, sure." And then I took the photo, and I go, "Okay, dude, hey, I'll send you the duplicates," as a joke. And he goes, "Why would I want the duplicates?" It just makes me laugh because I was trying to be funny. Of course, why would you ever want the duplicates of me? But he totally missed it for all of his comedy training. So that was the end of the show. It was fun. They gave me a bottle of wine that they all autographed, which I still have to this day. I have this bottle of wine on my shelf that I have in LA, and I refuse to throw it away because it was just a great time in my life. And I remember being in the writer's room with Jay and all those writers. They let me sit in on the rewrite sessions and just feeling at home there. And I was like thinking, man, one day I'm going to be back here. I don't know when that's going to be, but I'm going to be back here as a writer. I'm still not a writer. I'm like a comedian in Los Angeles. But it was definitely a good intro to how TV worked. And I feel so blessed I was able to even just watch and be around that team, because I think Spin City is a funny show. Like, I used to look forward to reading their new scripts every week. And those writers, I remember there's one story. Tad Quill comes in, and I saw him like during the week, like Monday or Tuesday, and he was assigned a script. And I went home back to my dorm, and he was like writing. And I came back the next morning, and he comes out of his office wearing the same clothes, and he wrote a whole script in like a night, and like he put it on the table, and he goes, we should call this Emmy. That's the title of the script, Emmy. That's how good it is. Like, he's joking, obviously, but I was in awe. I was like, man, that's a writer. Like, this guy just churned and burned. Anyways, so I hope, and this was all over the place, but hey, it's Thursday morning. I'm getting my thoughts together, and it's unpurified, people. So yeah, go get an internship if you can do it. It's not easy. I mean, I think LA is the place you have to be. I was in New York, so take note. There weren't any TV shows. Like, maybe it's like Sesame Street, Spin City, even Madigan Men. When I did Madigan Men, the other internship, we taped in Queens, where the Cosby studios used to tape. Which that there weren't. My point to this is there weren't many TV shows taping in New York City. So I feel like if you do want to intern in television, come to LA. You have a better shot. There's so many shows in production now, especially with Netflix, Amazon. And that's really how you get in the door. You work your way up. And they offered me a job. I was like a writer's intern. So imagine if you're actually in LA, you work your ass off, get a job as a coordinator, PA, writer's assistant, and just get in the system. Remember, in fact, when I was an assistant at an agency, a lot of assistants worked for TV lit agents, and then they went off to go work with their clients, like these writer clients, as their assistants. So I'm just saying that's definitely a viable route if you want to go down that path, but you have to keep writing. That's something that Tad Quill once told me. He goes, dude, you have to be always writing comedy. Like, you have to know the craft, which I don't know. I think that's subjective, because I know a lot of comedians, stand-up comedians, who absolutely suck, and other TV writers. So anyways, people, that's it. Have a great week. God bless America. See you. Bye.